The first thing I remember is the roar of explosions and the tremble of the ground beneath me. I was on Earth, just another ordinary day. Or so I thought. My life, like millions of others, changed in an instant when the Zhorlian warships darkened the sky. They arrived without warning, their massive forms blotting out the sun, sending ripples of fear across the planet. At first, people thought it was some sort of space anomaly, some strange celestial event, until the ships unleashed their wrath. I had no idea what was coming. Nobody did. The Zhorlians were no ordinary invaders. They weren't just interested in conquering, they were hunters, predators. We were nothing to them but prey. Earth had no defense. The militaries of the world tried to respond, but they were hopelessly outmatched by the sheer power and precision of the Zhorlian fleet. Their ships tore through cities, decimating everything in their path. I remember hearing the screams of civilians as their homes crumbled into dust. Some were burned alive by their laser weapons, others disintegrated in an instant. The planet's defenses crumbled in a matter of hours, and Earth became a battlefield. I don't know how I survived. I wasn't anything special, just another person trying to make it through the day. But I did. I made it through the chaos, through the carnage. There were no leaders left to guide us, no military to protect us, only survivors. And even then, those survivors were few and far between. I was one of the lucky ones, but luck doesn't last forever. My family, my friends, all wiped out in the blink of an eye. In the chaos that followed, I found myself on the run. The Zhorlian warships had dropped their ground forces, monstrous beings that stalked the ruins, capturing any human they found. My heart raced every time I heard their footsteps, the ground shaking beneath their weight. I moved from place to place, hiding in the shadows, always one step ahead. I quickly realized that I couldn't trust anyone, couldn't rely on anyone except myself. The world had changed in ways I couldn't even comprehend. One day, while scavenging in what used to be a bustling city, I found something, a relic, something that shouldn't have been there. It was a weapon, human-made, but unlike anything I'd ever seen before. A rifle, sleek and powerful, far beyond anything I had imagined we could create. As I held it in my hands, I knew something had to be done. The Zhorlians had to be stopped. We had to fight back. For all the lives lost, for the future of humanity, we had to take a stand. It was then that I swore an oath. I would become the hunter, the one to bring vengeance to the invaders who had stolen everything from us. I didn't know how or when, but I knew that if humanity was going to have a chance at survival, we needed more than just survivors. We needed warriors. I made a promise to myself I would be the first. I would fight. I would not let Earth be forgotten. That's when the hunt began. The days following the initial assault were a blur. I couldn't tell if I was simply surviving or living in a nightmare that never ended. The chaos of the invasion had left humanity fractured, scrambling for any kind of refuge. The Zhorlian ships continued their relentless bombardment, razing city after city, their ground forces sweeping through every remaining stronghold. The world that had once been full of promise and life had turned into a war-torn wasteland. I kept moving. Day by day, the landscapes I knew turned unfamiliar, the places I once considered home now reduced to rubble and ruin. I didn't even know where I was half the time, only that I had to stay alive. There were whispers of safe zones, scattered groups of survivors hiding out in bunkers, in mountains, or deep within the remnants of the forests. But they were few and far between, and I didn't have the luxury of waiting for help. Time was running out. Humanity was on the verge of extinction, and I was determined to do whatever it took to stop the Zhorlians. It wasn't until I stumbled upon the remnants of a secret military base that I found the spark I needed to ignite my fire of vengeance. The base had been abandoned, a ghost of the past. But within its crumbling walls, I found something extraordinary, an archive of weapons, designs, and technology that had been hidden away. Among them was a sleek, modified ship, advanced, powerful, and perfect for what I needed. It was part of an experimental fleet that had been left behind after the initial wave of the invasion, and for some reason it had been overlooked by the Zhorlian forces. I didn't know how to fly a ship like that, but I didn't care. I learned quickly. The ship wasn't just a mode of transportation, it was a weapon, capable of devastating firepower and speed. With it, I could strike at the Zhorlians in ways they hadn't anticipated. I wasn't just another survivor anymore, I was a force that could take the fight to them. I knew I had to find others who had escaped the initial purge, those who had managed to survive in the shadows, and unite them. I would need an army if I was going to take on the Zhorlian Empire. For the first time since the invasion, I wasn't just running, I was hunting. It took months of grueling travel through enemy territory, finding the scattered remnants of humanity wherever I could. Some of them had given up, resigned to their fate, but others still held the fire of resistance. There were a few who remembered what it meant to fight, who had the skill, the will to push back against the overwhelming force of the invaders. Together, we began to form something that could stand against the Zhorlian menace. We called ourselves the Phoenix Fleet. We were survivors, yes, but more importantly, we were fighters, and we were no longer willing to live in the shadows. Each day that passed, the fleet grew stronger, and with it, our resolve hardened. We trained, we gathered resources, and we planned. We knew we were outmatched, that the Zhorlian Empire was vast and nearly unstoppable, but that didn't matter. The fire of humanity was burning again, and I would not let it be extinguished. With the Phoenix Fleet, I set my sights on the heart of the Zhorlian Empire. If humanity was going to survive, we had to do more than just fight back, we had to strike at their very core. It was no longer about survival, it was about revenge. The Zhorlians had thought they could wipe us out, but they had underestimated us. We were not just going to die, we were going to make them pay. As we gathered our forces, the reality of our mission began to sink in. The Zhorlian Empire stretched across the stars, its influence choking entire systems, leaving nothing in its wake but death and despair. We had only just begun to scratch the surface of their power. Our small, tattered fleet, the Phoenix Fleet, had no illusions about the scale of the war we were about to wage. The Zhorlians weren't just invaders, they were a machine of conquest, and they had enslaved, destroyed, and obliterated countless civilizations before Earth had even caught their attention. We were fighting not just for survival, but for the chance to exist, to be free from the suffocating grip of a galaxy-wide empire. Our first raids had been small, tactical strikes meant to weaken their outer defenses and disrupt supply lines. The Zhorlians were fast to retaliate, but we learned quickly. Every victory, no matter how small, was a reminder that they weren't invincible. We weren't just surviving, now we were striking back. With each skirmish, I could see the shift. Humanity was waking up. The Zhorlians had underestimated us, but it wouldn't be long before they realized what a grave mistake that had been. The real challenge, though, lay ahead. We knew where their heart was, the center of their empire, the place where the Emperor, the leader of the Zhorlian forces, resided. His stronghold was located on a distant planet, one surrounded by layers of defense so thick that no one had ever managed to penetrate it. We knew that if we were to succeed, we would need a precise plan, an overwhelming force, and a level of strategy that we hadn't yet proven we could achieve. The Phoenix Fleet was a ragtag group, disjointed and scattered, but we were determined. And we had something the Zhorlians didn't: human ingenuity and the ability to adapt on the fly. We could improvise when things went wrong, and with the stakes this high, we couldn't afford to fail. We spent weeks gathering intelligence, scouting out the enemy's movements, and preparing for what would be the final assault. We gathered every piece of information we could about the Emperor's stronghold, its defenses, its layout, and the technology that powered it. The more we learned, the more we realized how difficult the task would be. The Emperor's fortress was unlike anything humanity had ever built: impenetrable walls, energy shields, automated defenses, and an army of Zhorlian soldiers. It was the most fortified place in the galaxy, and we were about to take it head-on. But there was something we hadn't expected, something that gave us a slight advantage. During one of our reconnaissance missions, we discovered a weakness. The Zhorlians had created a massive energy core at the heart of the stronghold, a power source that fueled the entire operation. It wasn't just for their weapons and shields, it was the lifeblood of the Emperor's rule, the key to maintaining control over his empire. If we could destroy that core, we could cripple the Zhorlian war machine. It would send a ripple through their entire fleet, forcing them to retreat, disband, or possibly even collapse under their own weight. That discovery was our turning point. It gave us something to focus on, a single objective that could bring the Zhorlian Empire to its knees. The mission was clear: we had to infiltrate the stronghold, destroy the energy core, and take down the Emperor. It was a suicide mission for most, but for humanity, it was our last chance at revenge. We weren't just fighting for our survival anymore. We were fighting to show the universe that humanity could never be erased, that our spirit, our resilience, was something no alien race could extinguish. With the knowledge of the energy core, our strategy began to take shape. The Phoenix fleet would take on the impossible. We would fight our way to the heart of the Zhorlian Empire, destroy their power, and bring down their emperor. It was time to finish what we had started. The final battle was coming, and we were ready to make our mark on the stars. The final preparations were underway. The Phoenix fleet had grown in size and strength, with more survivors joining the cause each day. We had spread word of our victories, of the Zhorlian Empire's weaknesses, and the courage that humanity had once thought lost. There were some who thought we were still fighting a losing battle, but I could see the fire in their eyes, the same fire that burned in me, the same relentless hunger for revenge. It wasn't just about defeating the Zhorlians anymore, it was about proving to them that we were not the weak prey they thought us to be. It was about showing them the power of humanity. As the fleet assembled in the distant system, we began to prepare for the assault on the Zhorlian stronghold. The stakes were higher than ever. We had found a way in, a route that could bypass some of the most fortified defenses, but the path would be treacherous. Time was not on our side. The Zhorlian Emperor would not sit idly by while we planned our attack. Our intelligence confirmed that the Emperor was aware of our presence, and he would spare no expense in preparing for our arrival. Our every move had to be calculated, precise. We worked tirelessly night and day on our strategies, revising our plans as new information came in. The closer we got to the final push, the more nervous I became. I had seen death up close, the faces of people I had known, the endless faces of the innocent victims the Zhorlian Empire had torn apart. But this mission was different. We weren't just attacking an enemy anymore, we were fighting for the future of humanity. And in this final battle, I had to lead them. There was no turning back. When the day of the assault finally arrived, I boarded my ship, the modified fighter that had become an extension of myself. The mission was set. Our fleet would strike from the shadows, launching coordinated attacks on Zhorlian outposts to divert attention, creating chaos in their ranks. Meanwhile, a small team of highly trained soldiers, my team, would infiltrate the stronghold itself, taking out key targets and creating an opening for us to reach the heart of their power. Everything depended on our ability to stay hidden until we were in position. If we failed, it was not just our lives at risk, it was the lives of every human left in the galaxy. The moment the Phoenix fleet entered the Zhorlian system, I felt the weight of it all. The space around us was silent, eerie, as if the universe itself was holding its breath. The stars twinkled above, distant and cold, while below, the Zhorlian stronghold loomed like a dark behemoth. The energy shields around it were nearly impenetrable, glowing with a deadly intensity. This was where it all came down to. This was where we would either succeed or fail. As we neared the planet, we launched the first wave of attacks, precise strikes on communication arrays and defensive positions. The Zhorlian fleet responded quickly, their warships moving in to intercept. But we had already planned for that. The Phoenix fleet had been training for months, using guerrilla tactics, exploiting weaknesses in their defenses and creating distractions. We hit them where they weren't expecting it, overwhelming them with sudden bursts of firepower. I watched as my team made their way down to the planet's surface. The skies above the stronghold were filled with the sounds of laser fire, explosions, and the deafening hum of enemy ships. We had to be quick, precise, and ruthless. No mistakes could be made. As I led the charge, my heart pounded in my chest, but it wasn't fear I felt, it was something far stronger. It was the fire of a species that refused to die. Humanity had suffered long enough. It was time to show the Zhorlians the consequences of underestimating us. The assault was brutal, our forces clashing with the Zhorlian ground troops. It wasn't just the physical battle that wore on us, it was the weight of what we had to lose. Every step we took towards their stronghold felt like a step into the unknown. We didn't know if we'd make it out alive. But that didn't matter anymore. The past was gone, and with it, the people we had loved and lost. But we still had the future, and we would fight for it with everything we had. We pushed forward, each step more difficult than the last, but we were closing in. The Emperor's stronghold was within reach. The final phase of our mission was about to begin, and we weren't stopping until we had achieved our goal. The end of the Zhorlian Empire was near. The final revenge was upon them, and humanity was finally showing the universe its true strength. The battle was far from over, but we had breached the initial defenses. The Zhorlian forces fought fiercely, their alien soldiers determined to protect their emperor and maintain control over their empire. But they had underestimated us. They hadn't accounted for the tenacity of humanity, the will to fight that surged within every soldier in the Phoenix fleet. We were not just survivors anymore, we were warriors, fighting with the desperation of those who had nothing left to lose. I led my team through the broken hallways of the Zhorlian stronghold, moving with a precision that had become second nature. We knew the mission had to be quick, we had no time to waste. The longer we lingered, the greater the chance of reinforcements arriving. Our main objective was clear: destroy the energy core, cripple the Zhorlian power, and end this war once and for all. But as we moved deeper into the heart of the fortress, we encountered obstacles that we had not expected. The stronghold's corridors were laced with traps, automated defenses designed to catch intruders. Laser turrets sprung to life as we advanced, forcing us to duck and weave through the chaos. The air was thick with tension, and every moment felt like it could be our last. Despite the danger, we pushed forward. The sound of our boots hitting the metal floors reverberated through the vast corridors, our footsteps steady and synchronized. I couldn't help but think of the thousands of humans who had fallen before us, who had been wiped out by the Zhorlian invaders. This was their revenge as much as it was ours. I could see their faces in my mind, the mothers, the children, the soldiers who had died before they ever had the chance to fight back. I carried their memory with me, and it fueled my resolve. We reached a massive door, the last barrier between us and the energy core. It was heavily fortified, a nearly indestructible metal shield designed to prevent intruders from reaching the heart of the stronghold. But we had prepared for this. Using a combination of explosive charges and advanced technology, we began to break through. Each explosion sent shockwaves through the walls, shaking the structure to its core. I could hear the distant sound of Zhorlian troops rallying, but we had no time to lose. As the door finally gave way, I felt a rush of adrenaline flood my system. Behind it was the core, a massive energy generator, glowing with an otherworldly light. It was a thing of beauty, in a way a marvel of alien engineering. But it was also the source of their power, the foundation of their empire, and it had to be destroyed. I motioned for my team to spread out and set up the charges around the core. We had no idea how long we had before reinforcements arrived, and we couldn't afford to take any chances. The countdown began. We had mere minutes before the charges detonated, and I knew we had to be far away before the explosion reached its peak. As we began to retreat, the stronghold's alarms blared, and I could feel the ground shake beneath us. The Zhorlians had detected us, and they were coming in force. We had to move faster, pushing our bodies to the limit as we sprinted through the corridors. The wall seemed to close in on us, but we didn't stop. We couldn't. The sound of enemy footsteps echoed through the halls, growing louder with each passing second. But we didn't look back. Our mission was almost complete, and the stakes were too high. The countdown reached its final moments, and with one final push, we made it to the exit. We emerged into the chaos outside, the Phoenix fleet still engaged in battle with the Zhorlian forces. The skies were filled with the screams of weapons fire and the flash of explosions, but we were close to victory. The core was set to detonate. The Zhorlian stronghold would fall. We didn't have time to celebrate, but I knew deep down that this was the turning point. We had struck at the heart of the Zhorlian Empire, and now they would know what it felt like to lose everything. They would know the cost of underestimating humanity. The final revenge was upon them, and there was no turning back. As the blast from the core's destruction rocked the planet, I allowed myself one small moment of satisfaction. Humanity had struck back, and we had done what no one thought was possible. We had made them pay. The aftermath of the explosion was deafening. The shockwave from the energy core's detonation ripped through the Zhorlian stronghold, shaking the entire planet. The once imposing fortress crumbled, its walls buckling under the force of the blast. The light from the core flickered and sputtered, extinguishing the power that had kept the Zhorlian Empire running for centuries. It was a victory, a monumental step toward the liberation of countless worlds, but it came at a great cost. The Phoenix fleet had suffered heavy losses in the battle, and we had no illusions about the difficulties that lay ahead. As I surveyed the destruction, I couldn't help but feel a mixture of triumph and sorrow. The Zhorlian Empire, once so powerful and unstoppable, was now in disarray. Ships that had once been invincible lay broken in space, their hulls charred and lifeless. The stronghold, the heart of their power, had been reduced to rubble. But we knew the war wasn't over yet. We had struck a major blow, yes, but the Zhorlians were not a species to simply roll over. They would regroup. They would retaliate. And we would have to be ready for what came next. The survivors of the attack regrouped, picking through the wreckage of the battlefield. The Phoenix fleet was badly damaged, but we were still standing. Humanity had proven its strength, its ability to rise against impossible odds. We had delivered a devastating blow to the Zhorlian Empire, but there was still so much to be done. There were still countless worlds under their control, countless lives to be freed. The victory was significant, but it was only one battle in a long and grueling war. In the days that followed, I couldn't shake the image of the destruction we had wrought. I had seen many battles, but nothing compared to the sheer magnitude of the devastation we had caused. The Zhorlian fleet was disbanding, their resources scattered, and yet their will to fight remained. I knew they would be back, and I knew they would come at us with everything they had, but humanity had tasted victory, and it would be a hard fight for them to take that away from us. We continued our push forward, reclaiming planets that had been under Zhorlian rule for far too long. Each victory brought more allies to our cause, more civilizations joining the fight. The Zhorlians were losing their grip, but they still had powerful forces at their disposal. The Phoenix fleet became a symbol of hope, a beacon for those oppressed by the Zhorlian Empire. Our reputation spread far and wide. Every skirmish, every small victory, added to the legend of humanity's final revenge. But as the days wore on, I began to feel the weight of the war. The loss of so many good people, the sacrifices that had been made, all began to settle heavily on my heart. I had led my team into the heart of the Zhorlian stronghold, and we had succeeded. But I had also lost friends, comrades who had fought and died beside me. Their faces haunted me, their names carved into my memory. The battle we had fought was not just for survival, it was for them too. For all those who had fallen before us, for those who couldn't fight back, for those whose voices had been silenced. The Phoenix fleet's victories were not just a testament to our strength, but to the human spirit. We had been pushed to the brink of extinction, but we had fought back with everything we had. The Zhorlians had underestimated us, thinking they could conquer us as easily as they had done to countless other species. But humanity was not like the others. We were a force to be reckoned with, and we had proven it. But the final victory was still out of reach. The Zhorlian Empire was in chaos, but they were not broken. Their emperor still had influence, and the war would not be over until he was defeated. The final revenge was within our grasp, but it would require everything we had. The next step in our journey would be the hardest. We had to finish what we started. We had to take down the Emperor and dismantle the last remnants of the Zhorlian Empire. But no matter the cost, humanity would continue to fight. We had already proven that we would never give up, no matter how high the odds stacked against us. As I stood at the helm of the Phoenix fleet, looking out at the stars, I knew one thing for certain: we had come too far to stop now. The fight was far from over, but humanity was ready for whatever came next. The Zhorlians had made a grave mistake when they thought they could conquer us. And now, it was time for us to finish this war once and for all. The final stages of the war were upon us. The Zhorlian Empire, although weakened by our relentless attacks, still had a terrifying hold on the galaxy. Their emperor, Tharok, remained at the center of their power, and as long as he lived, they would continue to resist. We had brought them to their knees, but we had not yet crushed their will to fight. To end this war once and for all, we would need to confront Tharok directly. Our objective was clear: infiltrate the Zhorlian capital, assassinate their emperor, and sever the head of the snake. The plan was audacious, even by human standards. The Zhorlian capital was a fortress, surrounded by layers of advanced defenses, with fleets of warships guarding the skies and entire army stationed on the ground. But we had something the Zhorlians didn't: determination, ingenuity, and the relentless drive to survive. We had fought for so long, sacrificed so much, that surrender was no longer an option. The galaxy had already seen what humanity could do when pushed to the brink, and we weren't going to stop now. I stood before my team, the last remnants of the Phoenix Fleet's elite soldiers. They were battered, worn, and some were barely able to stand, but their eyes burned with the same fire that had fueled our victories. We had faced death countless times, and we had always come out the other side stronger. Now, we were ready to face the ultimate challenge. The final confrontation would determine the fate of the galaxy. Either we succeeded, and humanity would reignite the flame of freedom across the stars, or we failed, and the Zhorlian Empire would consume everything. As we made our final approach to the Zhorlian capital, I couldn't help but reflect on how far we had come. A year ago, we were barely surviving, scavenging for resources, hiding in the shadows. Now, we were the ones leading the charge, and the galaxy watched as we made our move. Our ships were a testament to the ingenuity of humankind. We had taken the technology of the Zhorlians and turned it against them, adapting their weapons, their ships, and their strategies to our advantage. The tide had turned in our favor, but this was the moment that would define everything. The battle for the capital was fierce. The Zhorlian fleets were relentless, throwing everything they had at us. Their warships opened fire as soon as we entered their orbit, but we were prepared. The Phoenix Fleet's advanced maneuvering and our superior tactics allowed us to dodge their attacks, even as we countered with precision strikes. We made our way through the asteroid belt that surrounded the capital, using the debris to shield our ships from their fire. Every ship, every soldier, every ounce of energy was focused on this singular goal: the Emperor's palace. We finally broke through the Zhorlian defenses, but the real challenge had just begun. The palace was a sprawling complex full of traps, guards, and the Zhorlian elite. It was a maze of corridors, shields, and automated weapons. But we had been trained for this moment. Every inch of that palace was a battle, but we fought through it with everything we had. Our bodies were battered, but our spirits remained unbroken. Each floor we ascended brought us closer to the Emperor, and with each step, I could feel the weight of humanity's hopes resting on our shoulders. When we reached the throne room, we were met with a scene unlike any I had ever imagined. Tharok stood before us, a towering figure cloaked in dark robes, his eyes filled with disdain. He was not just the leader of the Zhorlian Empire, he was its embodiment. His arrogance, his belief in the superiority of his species had led to this moment. He believed that no matter what we did, no matter how hard we fought, he would always remain untouchable. But that was his fatal mistake. The final confrontation was brutal. The Zhorlian Emperor was a master of combat, his strength and agility far beyond anything a human could hope to match. Yet, in that moment, it was not strength that would win the fight, it was will. It was the strength of a species that had endured the worst atrocities, that had been pushed to the brink of extinction and had refused to die. It was the defiance in the hearts of every human who had ever fought for survival. I could see it in the eyes of my team as we faced him. We were no longer fighting for ourselves, no longer fighting just to survive. We were fighting for the future of every human being, for every world that had suffered under the Zhorlian yoke. And in the end, that was what gave us the power to defeat him. Together, we overwhelmed the Emperor, breaking his defenses and delivering the final blow. With Tharok's death, The Zhorlian Empire collapsed. The galaxy was free once again, and humanity had finally exacted its revenge. We had been the underdogs, the ones with everything to lose, but we had stood tall. We had done what no one believed was possible, and we had made it our final revenge. The story of our victory would be passed down for generations to come, a testament to the strength, courage, and unyielding spirit of humanity. As I stood over the fallen emperor, the first knew that the war was finally over. We had won. Humanity had survived, and we would rebuild stronger than ever. Thank you for listening to Alien Hunter Humanity's Final Revenge. If you enjoyed this story, please consider subscribing to HFY Genesis for more epic HFY adventures. Join the fight, and let's show the universe what humanity can do.